Tonight on BBC London, anger at delays announced to hospital building projects. Some of London's crumbling hospitals will have to wait more than a decade before they start to be rebuilt.
This is the state of much of the estate in London's NHS. Buildings built before the health service was even set up, crumbling and in need of repair or rebuilding. The sort of conditions like here at St Mary's in Paddington and here at St Helier in Carshalton that the previous government promised to address with its new hospital programme, with a pledge to build 40 new sites by 2030. During last year's election, Wes Streeting, who's now Health Secretary, visited St Mary's with promises about which London hospitals he planned to rebuild.
Well, it's St Mary's, it's Hillingdon. Sorry, I'm just Charing Cross, and Whipps Cross.
Hillingdon will begin sometime between 2025 and 2030, but the new hospitals at Whipps Cross and St Helier won't start until between 2030 and 2035.
And we're deeply concerned, and now we're going to have to prepare for the catastrophic failure of our estate. If the Secretary of State feels that we can continue to deliver high-quality patient care for the next 10 years in these buildings, we're very happy to invite him to come and inspect it himself.
There'll be an even longer wait for St Mary's, not set to start work until between 2035 and 2039, something hospital bosses there tonight described as devastating news.
Today, parts of the south found out waiting times were going up, not for treatment, but for hospitals. Timings had already slipped, and today the government said construction on the two projects would not start until between 2035 and 2039.
This hospital needs rebuilding, and the good news is that we're going to rebuild it.
That was a promise repeated by the now Chancellor during the last year's general election campaign.
Labour's candidate here in Reading West and Mid Berkshire has been campaigning to ensure that that hospital is rebuilt so that local people here have a hospital that they can be proud of, and we are determined and committed to do just that.
Today, though, we had the news that in actual fact the first spades will not go in the ground for a new Royal Berkshire Hospital until 2037. It's not just here, of course. Just down the road in Basingstoke, they're also coming to terms tonight with the fact that they too have been pushed back and won't be getting work starting on their hospital until that same tranche between 2035 and 2039. Now, the leader of Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council tonight told me that that was simply too late, and they will be pressing ministers to actually bring that date forward. Now, two sites were being considered for a future Royal Berkshire Hospital, one to the east of the town, down at Thames Valley Park, the other to the south at Shinfield. With work not now due to start until 2037, of course, they're now back to square one and having to consider whether that land will even be available in more than a decade from now.
The government has postponed the construction of two new hospitals in the region, saying the plans had never been properly funded. Work on the Princess Alexandra in Harlow and Kettering Hospital could now be delayed until 2035.
4 hospitals up until today still waiting for certainty on their futures. Now confirmation that it may be 2035 until Harlow and Kettering are rebuilt. But work will start on a new women and children's hospital in Milton Keynes and a cancer hospital in Cambridge by 2030. Labour blame the Tories for the delays. 4 hospitals in this region with crumbling rack concrete have already got the go-ahead.
There are 90 patients waiting to be seen at the moment. That's 90 of you.
But at the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Harlow, where the A&E department is overflowing and dilapidated pipework meant sewage leaked into a theatre, their brand new hospital could be delayed by 5 years. At Kettering, their new build could also be delayed until 2035. The country's finances may be in difficulty. Some argue it's a false economy not to replace some of these ageing buildings quicker. But others are glad the projects have been delayed rather than ditched.
A rebuild of Taunton's Musgrove Park Hospital has been delayed yet again. It was one of 40 hospitals which Boris Johnson had promised to rebuild, but the money wasn't there. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said work would now start sometime after 2030.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has announced delays to hospital building projects drawn up by the last government. Building work on a new maternity and children's hospital for Leicester has been pushed back to at least 2030. Construction on Nottingham's major projects won't begin until 2035.
First tonight, a £1.4 billion redevelopment of Leeds General Infirmary won't begin construction before 2030. Plans for a state-of-the-art children's hospital, adult hospital and maternity centre were put on hold by the new government last summer. The scheme was first announced back in 2018. Here's our health correspondent, Jamie Coulson.
Well, there is extreme disappointment here at the Leeds General Infirmary tonight after it was announced that plans for a major redevelopment of the site won't now begin until between 2030 and 2035, with estimates of pre-construction work starting in 2032. Let me give you a sense of where we are. That is the main LGI site there, the Jubilee Wing. And over my right shoulder, you can see these hoardings, and behind that is where the old nurses' home used to be. That was demolished in preparation for a new state-of-the-art building that would house a new children's hospital, a new adult hospital and a new maternity centre for the city. That was originally announced back in 2018, but later came under the previous government's new hospitals programme, which pledged to build 40 new hospitals by 2030. That was beset by delays, and the latest estimate for the cost of the build is around £1.4 billion. The new Labour government, when it came in, announced a review of the whole new hospitals programme and today announced their new timeline.
I can reassure my honourable friend that pre-construction work will take place over 2030 to 2032, with construction due to start in 2033 to 2035. And we'd be delighted to receive representation from MPs from his city and across the region about the support we provide to the Trust in the meantime.
Now, the Trust has said it is absolutely critical for this redevelopment to take place so that it can provide services that are fit for the future, but also to deal with a crumbling estate. Some of the buildings here are over 150 years old, and the repair bill currently stands at around £630 million. Now, in response today, the Trust has said it's extremely disappointed. They say they will continue to work with the new hospitals programme to understand what it means, and they will also work to understand what it means for services and this ageing estate, where the repair bills will continue to come in.